Beatles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Record Club. I am here with very special guest, Dick Botte here. We got Abbey Road, which is an album that I could have probably done right when I picked it, or when Brian picked it, because I've listened to this album probably more than any other album, maybe ever. Like, I've listened to this, and it's funny because this I should let you say hello, Dick. I'm so sorry. I'm just like blabbing already. But I found this album because of Beatles Rock Band, which is, I know, crazy. But you were here for the beginning, I believe, right?
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah. So how did you, I mean, obviously I know that of all the Beatles people I know, you are by far the biggest Beatle fan that I know.
Right.
So what was it like for you when this came out?
Okay. That's an interesting question because I've got something here that I want to share.
Okay. I'm excited because Dick, he came in with a bag, and I didn't want to look into it until we got here. Okay, what is this?
So,
I'm also gonna put this up to you right here.
okay,
Sorry about that.
thank you.
Yeah.
So, back in 1969, and Abbey Road came out in the later months, September, I think, something like that. I listened to KGB radio.
I have that still programmed into my car. 101
right.
KGB.
Yes, but it was 136 KGB back in the day.
Okay.
It is interesting. KGB FM 101.5 in the 60s was soft rock or soft music. That's where you would hear the Tijuana Brass.
Okay.
And, older, more sedate music.
Okay.
Okay. KGB AM, which is now, I think, All Sports, or it's a Mexican channel or something like that, was your, regular top 40. Okay. And they would have, every once in a while, they would have specials or whatever, and they would air them at midnight.
Okay.
Okay. And in around, I'm going to say, I don't know if I put a date on this. I didn't. I wish I would have. July, they said, we're going to preview the new Beatles album at midnight.
Oh, wow.
They didn't even have a name.
It didn't have wow. This is the new Beatles album.
This is the new Beatles album. Now, they probably had the name of it. The Beatles did.
Right.
But the radio station didn't announce the name. So I recorded it.
No way.
And I have, I don't know if you can see this, world premiere, and I misspelled premiere, so it says world premiere. The new Beatles album on KGB radio. And I have it right here.
Whoa.
Sunday morning.
You have the date on it.
9/14/69. So it came, this was about a month before it's released.
And they played the whole album before it was released.
Before it was released, and then I put, you can tell I was really excited. And then I put, see that tape? On it has the Beatles' new album.
Oh my! And then you're like, there's a little drawing of
drawing of me holding it. My hair wasn't that wild, and so here it is on reel to reel, because that's the only thing we had to.
Yeah, how did you even hook up to the radio how does reel to reel work to record that? Like, how
you press
the radio?
record and you had a microphone, and I
put
put it in
up
front
to
of the
speaker.
radio.
Dang.
So they played that, and they weren't supposed to do that.
It didn't. That doesn't sound like you're supposed to do what they played the whole album too.
The whole album.
That is wild.
And they weren't supposed to do that. And there was a big deal about, a cease and desist and all that. But so I got to listen to it a month and a half or whatever before it was actually released.
Wow.
And in 1969, I was 12 years old,
Okay.
13, 12 at that time, almost 13. So, the Beatles were blowing my mind,
Yeah.
for a 12-year-old. And the first song they played was Come Together. And it was.
Right.
And, every album was something that you never heard before.
Right.
Every single album. So I didn't know what to think. Now, keep in mind, you're hearing Abbey Road for the first time
Right.
on a little transistor
Yeah.
radio. So you're really not getting the full effect of the album. But the next day, I remember running to my friends going, I just listened to the new Beatles album. And then I was, there again a month and a half later, there's a music store called Thurl's Music.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember Thurl's.
I don't remember Thurl's.
It was probably before your time, but it was at College Grove Shopping Center,
Okay.
which was, now it's just like a Walmart and Target and all that. But back then, it was like a Grossmont Center. It was a shopping center, a mall. It was a mall. And Thurl's was a music store that sold musical instruments and records. And I walked in there and saw the cover, and it blew my mind. And that was the most expensive album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like $469 or $479, where most albums were $399.
Okay.
So it was like $1 more.
Dang.
But when I saw it, and there again, I was only 12. So I didn't have a car or money.
Right.
So I had to walk all the way home and then wait for my dad to get off work and, and drive me back to Thurl's to get it. That's my story.
That's
on the first time.
That is quite the story. Now, did you listen to that reel to reel a lot before the album came out?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you already knew the songs when you actually bought the album. You already knew them.
Yeah, but keep in mind, I'm listening to it not just out of a transistor radio, but a recording from a transistor radio. So it's not, it's not like the best
I'm
fidelity.
Sure. Of course not.
And so when you drop the needle on the record player and it's expansive, it was pretty impressive.
That is. Do you talk at all during this recording?
Oh hell no.
Oh, see, I wish to be like, all right, here we go. We're gonna start it. And so you have like your little
no,
12-year-old voice.
No, I don't think so. No.
Well, that's all right. We should honestly find a way to listen to that again.
Well, I have a reel-to-reel player.
So when's the last time you listened to that? Do you know?
No, I don't.
We should. I mean,
I would do that.
You should. You should listen to it just to see what it is.
One of your podcasts, I'll bring it.
Okay,
and you can listen to it.
I'd love to do that.
I've got a lot of reel-to-reel tapes.
That's so
as Rocco
funny.
Would probably attest.
My
to.
dad also had a lot of reel-to-reel.
Well, I have songs that I actually sang on.
Oh yeah.
And added vocals and instrumentals.
My dad recently found he digitized his reel-to-reels, and there's a couple of songs like I'm singing. I forget what I'm singing. Scorpions or something. I'm singing some song as like a 3-year-old, I forget. But
what I used to do, like there's a song on the McCartney album called Hottest Sun, and it's an instrumental. So what I did is I bought, and I don't have that reel-to-reel anymore. I think because the motor was kind of wonky, but I have my wife Nancy's old reel-to-reel, which works really well.
Yeah.
But anyway, you were able to do sound on sound on this reel-to-reel. So what I did is I wrote the lyrics to this instrumental, and I sang it, and then I added sound on sound. I added backing vocals, and then more backing vocals.
Oh,
so it sounded like a whole song.
You made a whole song.
Yeah, I actually have it on my phone. But,
do you? Do you really?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But it's interesting because I used to do that to other songs too. But I think of myself like if I was today, if I was young today, I would be doing exactly what you guys
Oh yeah,
doing.
yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
back then I was working with the limitations that I had,
Sure.
you know, for that time and doing the sound on. And none of my friends, they were all blown away. None of my friends like, how do you do that? And
Yeah.
I was like, hot shit, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And when I'm 64, it was split into two speakers, or two left and right.
Right.
And the vocals were on the left and the instrument. So I rewrote the song and did vocals
Dude, you're
on that.
and you changed the lyrics and everything. So
Changed the
You're like
lyrics.
Weird Al before Weird Al.
Yeah, you know what? Weird Al used to piss me off.
Yeah.
Seriously, because he was getting airplay for doing shit like that. When I'm 64 was called Down at University Lanes.
Okay.
There was a bowling alley that I hung out with, and I named names and all that. And man, like I said,
I bet
was
your
hot
friends
shit.
love that.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
And like nobody knew. It's like, man, how do you do that?
That's so
How do you do-"
awesome.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
Look at you.
But that was the creativity. And
Right.
Like I said, I see Rocco and you guys doing this with video, and it's like that's if I was that age at this time,
Right,
I
you'd be
would
doing-
be doing that too.
because you were doing it. You were
Yeah.
doing it, but you're the OG.
Yeah, I am the OG.
Now
Let's
speaking
get that shit.
of OGs.
Yes.
Now the Beatles, you know, you are again the biggest Beatles fan I know.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, my friend's dad loved the Beatles, and
Mm-hmm.
I never listened. My dad never listened to the Beatles really. Like
Yeah.
I just never. It was never around it.
Yeah.
So Beatles Rock Band came out, and I remember like I was blown away by the Beatles because I had heard all those songs and
Mm-hmm.
never realized that was all the same band because it sounds so different, like
Right,
as we
right,
talked about earlier.
Right.
And so, you know, a lot of songs on this, I was like, that's the beat. Like, I Want You, She's So Heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea because that
Right.
is a heavy song,
Right. Right.
and it is just to be on this album is just wild to me. Like this whole album was a wild experience to me. And then playing Rock Band, it's just so funny that of all things, like this video game is what got me into the Beatles. But like I was like, I remember going to E3 with Rocco and we were playing the songs and he had to sing them all because I didn't know them.
Right.
You know. But I was like every song, like this song rules, this song rules, this song, like it's just like it
Yeah.
kept like, and I really feel like the Beatles was something that I discovered a little bit later. You know, a lot of these albums I liked when I was a kid.
Right.
This was not the case, but I listened to Abbey Road. I think I've listened to Abbey Road with Jenny 1,000 times. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we named our daughter Lennon. You know, she's always loved the Beatles.
Right.
She's, you know, but for me, it was a later thing. But yeah, it's like Abbey Road is just like I every single song I just
Right.
love so much. So I was going to ask you, like, do you have like a favorite on this? Is there something that like, if you look, like
Well,
this is the best one?
The medley.
Yeah, the
Golden
medley.
Slumbers carry that way. What's interesting is, you know, that whole medley, John Lennon isn't on it a lot.
Right. Yes. And I learned actually doing research for this album. I thought I
Yeah.
knew a lot about this album.
Right.
I didn't realize that John Lennon didn't really like the medley. Like he wasn't into it.
He used to call Paul's music grandma.
Yeah,
grandma.
granny music.
Yes.
Yes.
And though I think he was just being nasty
Yeah.
for
Well,
a moment.
yeah, I kind of feel like, and I mean, what do I know? But I kind of feel like even I didn't watch the entire documentary on Let It Be that they put on Disney Plus, but I watched a lot of it, and you definitely get the dynamic, and you can see how Paul McCartney could be annoying. You can see how John Lennon could be, you know, like a dick. You can see all these things,
Right.
But they're all working together,
Right.
and it is like a dynamic that you have to kind of have that dynamic to make a product. You have to, you know.
Right. Well, so Ringo said recently that Paul was the workaholic. And he said, you know what? If it wasn't for Paul, we wouldn't have put out half the albums.
Yeah.
But, you know, watching Let It Be. So here's kind of what happened was the recording of Let It Be, which that wasn't the name of the album at the time. They didn't have a name for the album. But that whole session was contentious. Okay, somewhat. You know, or a better word, it was a clusterfuck.
Well, yeah, and it seemed like it was under such a time crunch,
Right.
that did not help anything.
Right. So they did all the recording. This was going to be a television special and all that. And, you know that, right? Okay.
Yep.
And then they were going to perform a concert at the pyramids, and they were going to do this, do that on a boat, and they ended up doing on the roof. And then after all that, they just went their own ways.
Right.
And that was that. And that was, around January of 1969.
Yeah.
I think they did the rooftop in January. So later, and I don't know exactly when, maybe April or May, or maybe, I don't know exactly the date, but they all kind of said, we'd like to do another album. So Paul called George Martin, the producer, and said, we want to do another album. And George Martin said, okay, but none of these shenanigans that went on. Want it play nice.
Right.
Kinda.
Right.
And he goes, no, we will, we'll be good. And so they went in, and this is their grand finale, is Abbey Road.
Right.
John hated Maxwell Silverhammer. When they asked John Lennon once, what broke up the Beatles? And he said Maxwell Silverhammer. But I think they all hated Maxwell Silverhammer, in fact, except for Paul.
Everyone hated but Paul. It's interesting because it is a weird song.
Well, it's a very violent song.
Very violent song. And it doesn't seem like a Paul McCartney song, really, to me.
No.
Like, it's interesting that he wrote this song and fought so hard for it, because it's like, I'm not to say that I don't like the song. I do like the song. But I'm also like, man, like, he was really this is the song.
Yeah.
For this, it's weird. Like, it's so unlike him.
Right. But they all had their awesome traits, but that was the beauty of McCartney, is really he could.
Yeah.
And then you have Oh Darling,
right,
which Paul used to go into the studio early and practice it because he was afraid. John loved it, and he was afraid John would want to sing it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I saw a quote that John said he thought he could do it better. It was more his style.
Yeah.
That he could.
Yeah. And so
that's so funny.
McCartney would come in and do the song before anybody else.
I do feel like
well, you do your research though.
I try. Yeah. I really do try. Sometimes I do a band like the Raincoats, and I'm like, and I have like a page to look into, like what do I talk about the Raincoats?
Yeah.
But this is like, there's so much, like I can't even digest all of this in time, so I can just get a little bit. But I was gonna ask you a couple things. So
okay.
This is their last album. According to Rolling Stone, this is their best album. Like, this is the highest ranked. This is number 5 of all time.
Right.
Do you consider this to be their best album? Do you think that there are other ones that should be higher on this list?
Well, so here's what I think, really. The Abbey Road, like, to be the grand finale, Abbey Road is perfect. I mean, what an accomplished album, from the, I always go back to the medley,
right.
The Golden Slumbers, Carry That Way. But then you go into Sun King, and then Here Comes the Sun.
Right.
And then something, and then I Want You, So you go into all those songs and you think, man, this, and then Octopus's Garden.
Right.
This really highlights every Beatle at their best. So that's that. So put that in corner.
Right.
But then you look at Sergeant Pepper,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the controversy. Well,
Right.
what about Sergeant Pepper? Sergeant Pepper changed the world,
Mm-hmm.
and literally,
Right. And that
It
it's
did.
funny because Sergeant Pepper isn't, I don't think, in my top 3 of favorite Beatles albums.
right.
But I do because everyone from that time I hear say that like Sergeant Pepper changed everything.
It did.
So I think that if you were there for that to see that, it has to be in your top, whatever.
Right.
But as an outsider coming into this a little later,
Right.
I do. I mean, it's a great album,
Right.
but I definitely would think, well, Abbey Road is much better in my mind. Than,
Right. It's
know.
a much more accomplished album, but so Sergeant Pepper was like nothing anybody had heard before.
Right.
And now Sergeant Pepper I was 9.
Right.
Okay. And I'm listening to this, and I've said this on different platforms or whatever, but after hearing that, I knew shit that the other kids in my class didn't know.
Right. Right.
I came to school that next day like, fuck you guys. I just heard Sergeant.
I'm 9. I heard
just
Sergeant Pepper.
Sergeant
Fuck all
Pepper.
of you.
So you can all kiss my ass. Spelling test? Fuck you. I'm not taking a spelling test. I just heard Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds 12 hours ago. So
Right.
you can kiss my ass. So that's how I was after listening to Sergeant Pepper. But it changed everything. It changed. A lot of people say that was the downfall of pop music.
Sergeant Pepper.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
That's crazy.
But it changed everything. So, so is that does that make it the best Beatle
Sure.
album? I don't know.
Right.
I have so fond memories of Sergeant Pepper and hearing that,
Mm-hmm.
and I can take myself, and I don't know if everybody can do this, but I can take myself literally to the place when I first heard.
I have that too, where I can mostly any song, but certain songs, I can tell you exactly where I was.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, the first time I heard the song Conquest by the White Stripes, I was driving on the 52 by 7,
And can you put yourself into that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
and
do
that
that.
feeling, and that's a really crazy feeling. And so with both, it's really hard to say what I think is the best Beatle album because there again, Sgt. Pepper was so influential and groundbreaking, and I wouldn't say Abbey Road was groundbreaking. I would say Abbey Road was just perfect.
As you said, it is the grand finale, and I think everyone shines. And I think this is, in my opinion, George Harrison's best work for songwriting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And maybe he has that was Jay and I. That was our first song we danced to.
Right. I remember.
I'm sure you were there. I know.
Yes, I was there.
But that is one of the. I mean, Frank Sinatra says that's one of the greatest love songs, if not the greatest love songs ever written.
By Lennon and McCartney.
By Lennon and McCartney. He thought John Lennon and Paul McCartney wrote it. But the point still stands that it's a great love song, no matter who wrote it. It was George Harrison. That song is like, I think it's so funny. Like George Harrison, I mean, obviously he's a Beatle.
Yeah.
But if he was in any other band at a young age, that he would be like renowned as like one of the best. But he just happened to be in a band with Paul McCartney and John Lennon, which is like made him the third best songwriter in the Beatles, which is crazy.
Well, and I just saw an interview with Paul McCartney that he did just a couple weeks ago, and he said, and it really kind of struck. He said, all this happened by chance to these, and got together with these 4 kids from, of all places, Liverpool, England.
Yeah.
Which was it was a port.
Right.
What are the odds of just these 4 strangers from, getting together and creating this.
Right. I mean, like zero. Like it
Zero.
shouldn't have happened.
No,
you
it
know?
shouldn't have happened.
And it's crazy that it did. And it's also crazy, like, the effect it's had on everything. Like,
everything.
it, you know, like, it is like, would I put this as the number one album? I think I might. Like, I think I would put this as number one.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, see, I would put Marvin Gaye number one.
well, Marvin Gaye is number one, Dick.
Well,
How did you
there
know?
go.
What?
Well, there you go.
Oh, my God.
Because I have that book.
Do you have the book?
Yes.
Well,
And I wish I wouldn't have spent the money on it.
do you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because, you know, all that, Rolling Stone likes to be controversial.
They do.
And, you know, and it's all just opinion.
And that's all it is.
You
But
know.
that's kind of why I like this. And then they also have the greatest songs list, which I have been actually more upset with than I was with albums.
I mean, it's just...
But it's just, it's a fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, music is so subjective. So when I give a
Yeah.
rating to these albums, it's like, this is what I'm thinking. But, like, you could hate it. Like, you know, they could hate it.
That's
I don't
what
know.
I'm saying. How can it be?
Right.
You know, the 500 greatest albums of all time. Well, you know, my grandmother wouldn't say that.
Right.
My grandmother wouldn't have picked Marvin Gaye.
Right. And, you know,
She
and that's,
probably would have picked Jimi
if I
Hendrix.
made this list, you know, a lot of things wouldn't have made it. But as I'm listening to each album now, I have found, like, oh, this should be on here.
Yeah.
Or even, like, there was one album, I did an episode with Jenny, and I really did not like the album. It was a Frank Sinatra, and Under the Blue Moonlight, or it was some, like, it was like the first album, though. It was like the first time someone had a theme to an album ever.
Uh-huh.
First time there was, like, an actual album artwork, you know?
Right.
Which is like, I didn't care for the album, but I get why it's on here, because it made it, like, that whole format even a possibility, you know?
Right.
So to me, it's like, I'm learning through that about other things. Just like, you know, like, so yeah, Abbey Road, in my opinion, should be higher up. It's 5, but it should be higher up in my opinion. But, you know, again,
I would think a Beatle album should have been number one.
I think so too. I think, you know, and if it was Sgt. Pepper, cool. But
Yeah. And probably Sgt. Pepper should have been number one.
you think that,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and again, like,
Because it changed everything.
yeah, which you know, it's so funny. I feel like we're going to get to our song later, but Smells Like Teen Spirit. But I think that is another Sgt. Pepper type moment, maybe in music. We'll get into that later. Maybe,
Okay.
maybe disagree.
There was I did.
Oh, I'm
bring a
not
couple
done
more-
talking about Beatles. Yeah, what else you got?
Okay, so I did. This is kind
Ooh.
of fun.
Okay.
Back in, I'm going to tell you. I don't remember the date. 1980.
Okay.
They were releasing master recordings, and I
Oh.
got this. And so it's, you know, vinyl. It's really thick vinyl, and it's from the master recording. This is 1980. And this
Wow.
is before CDs.
Yeah.
And it sounds incredible.
Oh, I bet it does.
It really does.
And that's why, I mean, honestly, like, I've since high school, I've collected vinyl because it sounds better to me. Like, I love vinyl.
Well, and also, you know, this guy, Bruce Spicer, writes about every Beatles album. And so he did
Oh,
this
interesting.
Beatles Get Back to Abbey Road.
Oh, so
and it's literally
everything.
everything about the, because now do you remember the Paul is Dead thing?
Oh, yeah. So
we need to
I've
talk about
heard
that,
about.
Sean.
I wasn't done, Dick. Don't worry.
Okay.
But I've heard the Paul McCartney died thing a lot. I've watched a little mini documentary about it because it's so silly to me. But I didn't realize that this album cover started the conspiracy, or maybe like helped boost the conspiracy. Like,
Yeah,
bigger
because he was barefoot.
because he's barefoot. But now you tell me what you know, because I'm sure you probably know more than I do. I just learned about this yesterday. So
Yeah.
what you tell me why this is the Paul is Dead conspiracy?
Okay, so he had toe sandals on that day. Okay, and his excuse was it was hot that day, so I took off my shoes, and I've seen pictures. They're sitting on a porch or whatever, and they're all it's from the Abbey Road shoot, and he's wearing sandals, and so he just took them off. But these college guys started that rumor, and I bought into it because once again, KGB
starting it all.
KGB's big troublemakers. They said, "Is Paul McCartney dead?" And they had a special, and it was a syndicated thing, so it wasn't just KGB. That it was done by some whatever, and they told the whole story.
Really?
Of Paul McCartney dead.
Dude,
and
KGB rules. This is awesome.
Paul McCartney was driving home from a session, sad, tired. I'm quoting this almost verbatim. Dejected when he swerved off the side of the road and in his Aston Martin, and the top of his head was sheared off. And like this kid, 12-year-old kid's like, oh no! I'm trying to picture a headless Paul. Oh no! And they never did say, maybe they did, that this was all conjecture or whatever made up, but I didn't hear that.
Right.
So it's like, fuck, he's dead, because they were looking at pictures and all that. And I have that on reel to reel.
Wow.
Too.
Now that's cool.
I have that on reel to reel too. And if you ever want me to come in and I can play some of this.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let me know.
We have to digitize this and get it out there on like MP3 format or something.
Yeah.
So just preserve it, because that's history.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And so in 1992, Paul McCartney, in a joke, this is a live album, and it's called Paul is Live.
That's hilarious. And he's holding the dog. Now, with...
and plus, it probably helped sell records.
I know that they have officially labeled this intersection as a historical landmark.
Right.
And same with Abbey Road Studios, obviously. But
right.
like this, because I guess like there's a webcam, I'm sure you know, that streams this 24/7 because people continuously...
Right. And they all go... Well, they just walk across the fucking street.
No one has their arms up.
No, they every time someone takes their picture, they're trying to pose like it's just a fucking walk.
This walk, and not only that, but I do feel like if Mega64 ever finds ourselves there, we will absolutely take this picture. There's no way we're not going to. Well, you have to.
Well, yeah, because I'll be there with you.
You'll be there. You'll be there.
I've already told Rocco if you guys go to England,
you're coming.
I'm coming.
Fair deal. Now, more about the Paul is dead thing. So I didn't realize that they read into what they were wearing as part of it.
Yeah. Now, do you know all that?
Well, I just learned it. So tell me if I'm right. The white John Lennon is because he's like the holy, like the priest, the holy figure, someone,
Right.
And then
the preacher.
Right. Then we got Ringo in black suit. He's like the mourner, like the person there at the funeral. No, I thought that was George Harrison.
George was the gravedigger.
Oh. I was so close.
Ringo is the Undertaker. George is the gravedigger, and John was the preacher.
Okay. But it's funny because you look at that and you go, okay, I can see that.
Because a dead man is buried in a suit with no shoes.
The no shoes part is real? You're buried with no shoes?
Yeah.
Really?
Why do you want to put? If you're
why you put a suit on? I don't know. I don't know.
You're not doing much walking there, Sean.
You're not doing much, dancing if you're wearing a suit. I didn't realize that you're buried with no shoes on. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, there you go. So
there you go. So maybe he is dead.
Makes even more sense. Paul McCartney, I believe it. He's dead. I also read that there's some guy who is adamant that he was the person standing on the sidewalk. He's like, that's me.
Oh, no, there's the picture. The man, he was waiting for his wife.
Really?
Yes. And there's a picture of him now holding the album cover. And it's like the best, what do they call it? When...
I don't. Photobomb.
Photobomb.
Yes.
The most famous photobomb in history. Dude. But yeah, there's a picture. He's he's probably dead now. But
can you imagine? He's waiting for his wife. I'm sure he knew who they were.
Yeah.
And she probably, like, his wife, like, came down after this was all over. Like, you're not going to believe what just happened.
Yeah.
She probably never believed him.
Yeah.
Then the album came out and said, look at
It's me.
there I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep in mind, they're the Beatles. That's a very busy intersection.
Right.
There were a lot of people watching.
Right. They also, I think, had to hold up traffic for like 8 minutes or something to do that
right.
for the shoot.
And McCartney says that whenever he because this is right in front of Abbey Road Studios.
Right.
And back then it was called EMI Studios.
Okay. But now
They
it's
changed it. Yeah.
Okay.
McCartney says every time he's in his limousine going to the studio, he goes, "We have to sit and wait for people to fucking cross." He goes, "And one of these days, I'm just gonna walk out and go, 'Can you hurry up?'"
I saw a video of him talking to someone doing the Abbey Road crossing thing.
Yeah.
Or so, I forget what he said, but he said something to them and they all, I mean, it must be weird to be Paul McCartney
Yeah.
because you're the most loved, famous person. Like,
Yeah.
people, I mean,
Yeah.
love him. You've seen, have you seen all the Beatles live?
I haven't seen George. Well, I met John.
Now that is a great story. And I have looked at that napkin signed in your office more hours. I've just stared at that. Like, it's amazing to me that you have that signature. But yeah, you met John, and where were you?
In Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas.
You want me to tell the story?
Please, please.
Okay, so I was 16 years old, and I was in Las Vegas with my mom and dad, and we were in Caesar's Palace. And I was, back then, and you're talking 1973, it wasn't, Las Vegas wasn't the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I was 16. My dad used to say, put a toothpick in your mouth, carry a glass of orange juice, and they'll think you're 21. So that's what I did, seriously.
That's hilarious.
And we were sitting playing Keno, just me and my dad. And to my left comes John Lennon with a shaved head.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And his then girlfriend, May Pang, because this was during John Lennon's Lost Weekend, and he wasn't with Yoko.
Wow.
So I was like, Dad, John Lennon. My dad looks and he goes, God damn, it sure is. And I go, I got to get his autograph. So I picked up a Keno card and a Keno crayon. I got up and it was like he disappeared out of thin air. Couldn't find him. So, and of course I was wearing a jacket.
Right.
To look 20.
Took older, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't fool anybody. So that was that. Came back. I said I couldn't find him, but at least I saw him. I can't believe I saw John.
Yeah,
Lennon.
yeah.
So later that night, we went and saw the Osmon brothers. And it was, back then you had a dinner show. There was like you would have dinner and you'd be at a table like this big.
Yeah.
And 6 people would sit at the table.
Yeah.
You know, 4 people actually. It was a dinner show. And so we ate dinner. And then there was a break before the Osmonds came. So I told my mom and dad, I said, you know, before the Osmonds come, I'm going to go to the restroom. And you had to go out of the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom goes, well, I'll go too. Okay. That was the good Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Telling you had to pee.
Yeah, telling me I had to pee, working my bladder.
Right.
I walk out and literally out the door in this bar at this long table, there he was sitting at the head of the table. I was like, well, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice.
Right.
So I walk up to him and he's like here, and I go, John?
You tap him.
I tap him on the
You
shoulder.
tapped him. Oh my God.
And he just sat like this.
Oh.
And I go, John.
You tapped him again.
I tapped him again.
The double tap. Oh my goodness.
How many people have double tapped?
Not
a Beatle.
A Beatle? Not many.
No.
Dick,
no,
not many.
No.
Wow.
And he just turned around and went like that at me.
He made some face at you.
Yeah, and I went, I went, ah, just like that, and like it was yesterday. Ah. And I go, hey, John, can I have your autograph? Just like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, yeah, sure, And he signed it. I said, I saw you earlier, but I didn't want to make a big fuss. And he goes, well, I really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
And I go, well, thank you so much. And I'm looking and I see my mom with her hands folded, just watching this, like beaming.
I bet. I mean, you met your hero. And you're, what, 16?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's so cool. And so then he signed the napkin. You still have it. It's framed.
Oh, yeah. It was a Keno card.
Keno card.
Now, and that in itself is unique because that was a big deal that John Lennon went to Las Vegas, but there's no pictures or documentation.
Oh.
But I have documentation.
You have the documentation.
On a Caesar's Palace Keno card.
Wow.
And every once in a while I think, this may not need to be inherited by Rocco. And
Yeah,
Dom.
you can't sell it. Get rid of it. Rocco, go fuck yourself.
I remember I mentioned that, and I said, you guys are going to inherit this.
Yeah.
And Dominic goes, shh, we're going to sell it. And Rocco goes, no, we're going to keep it.
Yeah.
And then Rocco goes, and so it begins.
Rocco would never sell that. There's no way.
No. But anyway, but this isn't the end of that story.
Oh.
You're rushing me.
I thought you met him.
No,
sorry.
No, it doesn't end with just me meeting John Lennon.
Well, now what happens? I'm afraid to ask.
Okay. So I'm back into the showroom. And I'm watching I just met John Lennon.
You're probably you're not even there, right? You're just
it's
shaking.
Like, you're fucking Donny Osmond.
Right.
Go to hell.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I've got my leg out, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, I met John Lennon. I met John Lennon. I met John Lennon. I met John Lennon. And Jimmy Osmon, he was the youngest of the Osmonds, was singing his song, Walking Up the Aisle.
Okay. Oh,
with the spotlight on him.
Oh, geez. Okay.
What happens? He trips over my foot with the spotlight. And it was one of those moments where he stumbles and the audience goes, oh,
So you met John Lennon, and minutes later you tripped Jimmy Osmond.
Right.
Wow.
But it's not over, Sean.
We're not even.
Stop.
You thought it was over.
This isn't even.
I knew.
This isn't
But they didn't
even
know.
the end.
It's not even the end. Because next he
That
killed
was-
someone. Go ahead.
And then I killed a guy that night
No.
with a Bic pen. No. So that was in October
Okay.
of 1973. Okay. October of 2004.
Okay, we jumped ahead a little bit.
Jumped ahead. Me and Nancy and Rocco and Dominic are pull up at the valet at Caesar's Palace.
Back to Caesar's.
We're back to Caesar's.
Yep.
And Rocco can attest to this. Who fucking pulls up on the side of me?
I don't know. Jimmy Osmond.
Jimmy Osmond. and he gets out of his car. He's at the valet.
Yeah.
And I go, Jimmy. And he goes, yeah. And I go, I got a story to tell you.
No, you told Jimmy Osmond the story about
Yeah.
how.
And he grabbed my neck and he goes, so you're the guy. I go, Jimmy, I'm sorry. I met John Lennon. I tripped you. And he goes, so you're the guy. And he grabbed my neck and started doing that.
God.
Okay. So that was weird.
That is weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story.
And that's not over.
Yes,
Come on, Sean.
Yes, it is.
Come on.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay, go ahead.
I'm at Comic-Con
Yeah. Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
Who do I literally bump into?
Jimmy Osmond again.
Jimmy Osmond.
I knew
but
it.
this time I got a picture. I have a picture of me and
Okay,
Jimmy Osmond.
you got it. You should have recreated. You tripped him. You should have been tripping him. And,
I know that would have been rad.
damn. You know what?
I wonder if they filmed that concert.
I wonder how often Jimmy Osmond gets recognized because I don't think it's that often. You
No,
think it's
probably not because he had a severe stroke. And
Oh, he
he's
did?
on almost vegetative.
Oh, I
state.
didn't know that.
Yeah, that was cruel,
Jimmy, I'm sorry.
That was that was.
He does
uncalled for.
subscribe to our Patreon, so he's gonna be devastated when he sees this. He'll be so sad.
But that's my
That's
old
amazing.
John Lennon story.
Now you
but-
haven't met Paul yet, but I'm not
I
giving up
know,
for you.
I know. That really is my dream.
That's your white whale.
Yeah.
Is
it's my
Paul
life.
McCartney.
Yeah.
Now you just saw him recently. You at SoFi, I think, and you were up close. You were there.
There, I went to a sound check too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How many people were at the sound check? Was it a lot, or was it like
He does an hour
He does an hour of sound check?
and then 3 hours concert.
Does he play the same songs or different
No,
songs?
different songs.
Dang, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you're not supposed to. They said the first thing is no filming.
Right.
Okay,
Sure.
So it was the first thing I did.
I imagine you filmed it.
Yeah.
After you tripped Jimmy Osmond, who was at the concert.
I'm such a scofflaw, and then I filmed a couple of snippets.
And then you got yelled at?
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
Hey,
they found you.
tap on the shoulder. Hey, no filming.
They gave you the double tap.
Yeah, they gave me the double tap, but I didn't do this.
No.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I never met Ringo. I did see Paul and Ringo on the same stage once.
Okay, that's cool.
When he was with Wings. And I've seen Ringo several times. I never met George, but in 1975, this is just real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
1975, me and my friend, Rick, went up to Hollywood, and we wanted to get promotional material
Okay.
for records and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we were really into that stuff. So the first thing we did was go to Capitol Records,
Okay.
And we walked in and front counter, and we're looking for promotional material, and they said, "Go to hell, get out of here."
That's what I would expect to happen. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So the next thing we did was George Harrison had signed, which he never released an album on because it all fell apart, but with A&M Studios, A&M Records rather, to distribute his albums under the name of Dark Horse Records.
Okay.
Okay, A&M Studios was at the old Charlie Chaplin Studios in Hollywood, which is now the Jim Henson Studios,
Okay.
I believe. Okay. So we said, you know what, let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
So we pull up, and there's a guard at because it's like one story, and it's massive, though. And we pull up to the guard and said, "We're from KCBQ." And there's a radio station. "We're from KCBQ, and we program commercials, but we'd like we're looking for some promotional material for George Harrison." And the guy goes, "Just a second." Gets on the phone. "Yeah, go ahead and park over there, and then he'll be waiting." Terry Doran, who was Beatles, one of their assistants, will be waiting for you. You'll see Olivia Arias at the counter, and that's who married George Harrison,
Right.
Olivia. So, like,
You just got way over your head.
so we go there, and Olivia, who is now Olivia, back then she wasn't, but
Right.
she married George.
Right.
She was like the nicest person
Wow.
on earth. And she goes, "Hi, Terry's in there, and I'll have a bunch of stuff for you." So we go in, and it's all this George Harrison stuff. And Terry's sitting back there going, "So what you guys do for..."
Oh.
And we're like shitting ourselves.
I'm sure you are.
Going, "Well, yeah, we log commercial." And he knew that we were just two
Two shitheads.
shitheads.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is that I knew enough because I'm an encyclopedia when it comes to music
Mm-hmm.
to hold my shit.
Right.
So I go, "Is that Willie Weeks?" George Harrison's bass player. He was walking down the hallway.
Oh, wow.
I go, is that Willie Weeks walking down the hallway? He goes, yeah. Hey, Willie, come in here. So now George
no.
Harrison's bass player comes in. I go, hey, Willie, how you doing? And my friend's, sitting there going, oh, shit. What? And I go, hey, I just heard you on the new David Cassidy album. And he looks and he goes, wow, that's impressive. And I go, yeah. I actually like the part in the song Darlin' where he goes, take it away, Willie. And he goes, yeah, that was funny. That was great. And then Terry Doran says, George is recording in England right now. So he couldn't be here. I'd love to have you met him.
Heartbreak City.
That's okay. And so we chatted, and he goes, now, what's your names again? And he writes down our names. And it's like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah. And he wrote down our names, make sure probably we never showed up again.
That was, the band list.
And when we came out, Olivia Harrison said, here's a bunch of stuff. And she gave us posters and
That's
buttons
so
and all
sick.
that.
Wow. And you almost met George. If he was there.
If we were there, if he was there,
You would've met him.
We would have met him.
That's-
We talked about his new album. There were.
I bet the car ride home, you were like, how did we get away with this?
Oh, we were laughing.
I
the
bet
entire.
you were.
That was bizarre.
That's so funny. That is so funny. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Abbey Road for a little while longer. Though
Okay.
You're not done.
I'm
Dick.
not.
You have more.
I'm
you have
here.
more to say.
I'm here.
I have more to say about it. So what I was gonna ask you, and this is a hard question, but I'm just dying to know, if you had to remove one song from this album, what would it be? If you like, because I know all of these are like your babies, but you gotta let one go. Which one? I know. And I've never asked this question of anyone before, but I just think it's interesting. Like, which one would you have? Which one? For me, and you made. I love the medley. I love the medley, but the Sun King part that could go for me. That's for me.
That's probably for me too.
Yeah,
And that's really not part of the medley.
it's not.
I don't think so.
It's in the middle, isn't it? Isn't it? How does it go? I thought it was like. Maybe I'm wrong. I have. You never give me your money. But the melody starts with what? Because?
Yeah.
And it's because you never give me your money, then Sun King, then Mean Mr. Mustard. But you could just
That
go.
Mean Mr. Mustard really kind of starts off.
The medley for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, okay, so Octopus's Garden, I wouldn't touch. I think it's a funny, stupid song.
It's a great
I
song.
love it, though. I do love it. Maxwell Silver Hammer, John would get rid of.
I think it's a great song.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
I think all these songs are like, that's the thing. It's like this record, again, is maybe my favorite record. Or I think one of the best ever made. So, yeah, that's why I ask you this question, because it is a great,
Yeah, probably Sun King.
Yeah, and it's just, there's listing off weird words at some point,
Yeah. And those aren't really, that's not really a language. Cuando para mucho.
They're just making it up, right?
Yeah. That's
Well,
John
I
Lennon.
thought it was because they were, everyone was like analyzing every lyric that they wrote. And so they wanted to write nonsense just to fuck with those people or something like that.
I don't know. I've heard that John just wanted it to sound romantic and he
Oh.
didn't, and so.
I will say, so playing this on Beatles Rock Band, Rocco and I played, because they had released the whole album on this. And the medley has gotten us in so much trouble.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, hey, we got a film, we're losing daylight. Let's just play one more song.
Right.
Oh, and then someone puts on the medley. It's like, oh, we're playing the whole thing, and now we're gonna miss the shot
right,
for sure.
right.
But I will say that the medley itself, I think, is like the perfect way to end the Beatles. Like, that is like, even the end is like the end of the medley.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost a beautiful. I think they knew, right? Like they knew this is the end.
Yeah. And that the guitar solo at the end is each
I
Beatle.
just learned that.
Oh, really?
I
Each Beatle
did.
takes a lick.
I learned that.
And McCartney does that live. When he does it
Oh, he
live,
does.
he plays the guitar and his two guitarists, and they trade licks.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I've seen him live twice.
Yeah.
I really hope he's gonna tour again, right? You think, Paul McCartney?
Well, he's touring Australia. And,
right. And I saw you announce a new show today in like Sao Paulo or something like that. But
I don't know if he'll come back. He's 81 years
know.
old. And so You know, he's going to do, South or Chile or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
in Australia, and then he'll probably take a break again.
Yeah. I mean, I could see him. I mean, if he's able
But
to.
he'll tour as long as he's vertical.
Yeah.
He'll tour.
Jenny was talking to me about there was an interview with Paul McCartney and Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift I think was doing the interviewing of Paul McCartney, but she was saying that she learned how to tour because of him, because it's like she was like, you play all the songs they want you to play,
Right.
like you're selfless on stage, like you
Right.
give back to because like a lot of bands, here's my new album, I'm gonna play the whole thing whether you like it or not. I'm not playing the hits. The
Right.
one song that you want the most, I'm not gonna play that because I'm tired of playing it.
Right.
But he doesn't do that.
No.
He's like, I've played, whatever, when any of his songs, 10 billion times. 8 days a
Right.
week, I played so many times to make your head spin.
Right.
But I'm gonna keep playing it because you want it.
Right.
And
And a lot of people, and maybe I'm one of them, say, well, I wish he'd, shuffle his set list a little bit more. Because every time I see him, it's kind of the same set list.
right.
But, you have to keep in mind that the majority of the people that are seeing him for the first time.
Exactly.
And those are the songs they want to hear.
Yes.
So the fact that I've heard, it's like, fuck, he's going to play All My Lovin' again, and I've seen him play that. I mean, how can you complain about seeing him play that?
I know.
But, I wish he'd play something different. It's all these people have never seen him play All My Lovin'.
Right. And I will say, the first time I saw him was Jenny was very pregnant, and we went to the Dodger Stadium show.
I remember.
I remember there was a guy who was so snarky behind us, and he was like, "What are you gonna name the baby, Paul?" And then Jenny was like, "No, it's Lennon." But it's like, that's a funny interaction. It was a funny interaction.
Doesn't come close to my Jimmy Osmond story.
It does not,
Sorry,
but it's
John.
still a good story.
Yeah, it's still a good story.
But I remember he starts with 8 days a week, and I remember now that's a song I've heard my entire life. And I remember being there, being like, I can't believe I'm seeing this.
Yeah,
like
right.
I shouldn't be able to be seeing this. Like that's
Right,
amazing.
right.
And so if he does tour again, like I will do everything in my power to take my entire family because I want my kids to have that same.
Right.
I want them to see a Beatle. I want that. So like hopefully he tours again and I'll be able to show them this because I do think it's important to see.
Well, keep in mind that, what is it? What year is this? 2023.
Yeah.
40 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
40 years from now, it'll be 100 years since they are, 1964 is when they came on Ed Sullivan, but, basically 1963 was,
Right.
it'll be 100 years.
Yeah.
40 years from now, how old are you going to be?
In 40 years, I will be 79.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to look and talk to your grandchildren or
Right.
great-grandchildren
Right.
and say, I saw Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I saw
and
Beatles.
this is 100 years ago. It's like saying I fucking saw Abraham Lincoln.
Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's going to be one of those things. And
Right.
the Beatles, I think, will always be. Like it will that's the kind of music like Beethoven. Like
Right.
Beethoven's been dead
Well,
for
that's
so
what I'm
long, but
saying.
it doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Their legacy. There was a time, kind of in the 70s, maybe the 80s a little bit, but their legacy hadn't exploded like it is now.
Right.
It was just, it's always been big, but nothing like it is now. Their legacy is just like, because we're looking back and saying, whoa, this is like nothing
Yeah.
that we've ever witnessed. And, Paul McCartney's keeping that legacy going.
Yeah.
I mean, Ringo's touring,
Right.
but Paul really is, not to coin a phrase, but carrying the weight
Yes, absolutely.
of the Beatle
Right.
legacy.
Which is such a weight. And I'm sure it's such a
Right.
like it'd be
It's a burden.
It's a
It has to
burden.
be a burden.
It's and like he is the level of famous where like he's been famous his whole life, and not just famous. He's been like most famous person on the planet famous for his whole life, essentially. He doesn't know anything else.
Right.
But he continues to do, like, he could have just gone to a cabin in the woods, like, I'm done with all this, Right. But he doesn't. And he keeps touring and playing these songs that he wrote, forever ago with his friends back when he was a kid,
Right.
And it is something. It's really remarkable.
And it has to be kind of, he used to say, when I tour and I play these songs, it's interesting because he'd say, like, the last time I played the song was in the studio 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, that's a big deal, but it must also be very emotional. Because he's playing these songs and his mind has to go back to,
as we talked about, when you first hear a song or write a song, I imagine you're there.
Yeah. And George isn't there and John isn't there, and it was better times.
Right.
Happier time, whatever. But it's a big deal, and we're lucky. I mean, we are lucky to live in this time where we can. I mean, the Earth has been around for however long, and we're lucky to be here to be able to witness and be part of it.
And you were there from recording things on, on reel to
I
reel.
was there from the beginning.
And that's amazing. Like,
I saw it on Ed Sullivan. And it was like, and it was Paul McCartney as soon as I saw him. And the next day, I was in second grade. And the next day, we played the Beatles. And I'm Paul. And then there was this kid, and I'm not going to say his name because he actually is well known in San Diego.
Oh, wow.
Kind of.
Okay.
He kind of had a big nose.
Okay.
Oh, you're Ringo. And then there was this guy named Fred.
Yeah.
and he had a unibrow. You're George. And I'm Paul.
I'm Paul.
But anyway, but yeah, from the beginning. And that, that's really something.
It's pretty remarkable. So, I mean, I took a ton of notes, but I think we've covered it. I mean, I had all these things.
Covered it, we've buried it.
I knew that I would have these notes and be like, but you already know this information. I can't tell you anything new. Sometimes I like to get someone on and like, did you know this though? And they go, oh, I didn't know that. I mean, that doesn't always happen.
No, I know.
But there's no
John,
chance.
I know.
There was no chance, Dick. We knew this.
Come on.
But
let's not kid each other.
We tried our best. So that is Abbey Road. Dick, thank you so much. I'm not done with you yet, by the way. We have to still talk about Nirvana. Oh. But I mean, I always give a score after what I think. Clearly, this is going to be a 5 for me. There's no question. 5 out of 5, obviously. One of the greatest albums of all time. Again, Jenny and I have listened to this, particularly us together have listened to this thousands of times and played this game in a rock band hundreds of times. And I'm so thankful they made Beatles Rock Band. Truly.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that introduced a lot of people.
It did. And like kids,
that
like,
was a big deal.
It is a big deal. And like, it's funny how like, sometimes like, why are the Beatles doing this? It's like, because Paul McCartney is a genius and a workaholic, and he does know, like, I'm going to have a new generation of people loving this music.
Right. One thing I want to
Go
tell
ahead.
you on this, when they premiered the album, they didn't play Her Majesty. That wasn't part of it. So when I got the album and I'm playing it, I got up. You know how the album ends?
Yeah.
I got up to turn the needle and suddenly, boom, and I like to shit my pants.
You jumped a mile.
I did. I did not expect that.
I played it. I've been listening to Abbey Road again in the car last week, and I didn't tell my kids that part was coming, and I scared the shit out of them. Like, oh my god, in the car. And
then I do have a copy of The Missing Chord because you know how it has. She's a pretty nice girl. Doesn't have a lot to say. She's a pretty nice girl. Gonna tell her I love her a lot, but I gotta
get a belly full of wine. Yeah.
She's a pretty nice girl. Today I'm gonna make her mine. Oh yeah, you're gonna make her mine. Boom.
Yeah.
And I have the version that goes boom, boom.
Oh, whoa!
That's the missing chord.
I didn't know there was missing.
There's a missing chord.
And you have that.
I have it.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
I gotta find that. The missing chord.
Yeah.
This seems like something that we would do at Mega64, where it's like, that's a mistake, but we're leaving it in.
Right.
Nah, that's how it's gonna end. Like,
Yeah.
you look at the medley and it's crafted so beautifully. And you talk about like the guitar solos. There's a drum solo for the first time in the Beatles.
And Ringo hates drum solos.
Oh, he does.
Right. But the popularity of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida
Is what did it. But it's the first and only drum solo.
that Ringo's ever done.
Then each person besides him takes a guitar solo. It is a beautiful ending, and it ends with the end, but it doesn't because there's a fuck up, and it ends with Her Majesty. But it's poetic to me. It's beautiful.
And you say a fuck up and you leave it in. At the end of I Want You, She's So Heavy, you know how it kind of stops me?
Yes.
Well, that was a mistake. They cut the tape.
I thought that was John
Yes.
telling them, like, cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, like, because he was just like, it's over. But, like, there was more.
Yeah.
And they also had said they had 20 seconds more on that side of the album if they wanted it. But he's like, nah, it's done.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, again.
That was the beauty of the Beatles, is there was no format. There was no format. And you know, really, all of them contributed to that. You know, they all thought outside the box. You know, Ringo came up with the name A Hard Day's Night.
Right. And that's the thing, is Ringo gets a lot of shit, I think.
Yeah.
And no one takes Ringo seriously. But he's part of the four. Like, he's,
and
you know,
his drumming, I mean, was every bit as part of the whatever music or songwriting or whatever.
Yeah, agree. So again, they're all, you know, it's the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's the Beatles.
It's the Beatles.
Okay, so that is the Beatles. I'm assuming you're giving this a 5 out of 5 as well, Dick.
Oh,
I'm just
100%.
gonna
100%.
assume. I'm gonna throw it out there.
5 out of 5.
Okay, well, let's talk about.
It's really warm in here, by the way.
I told you you had the AC on, but I'm sure Rocco could turn the AC on for us if he wants to. Rocco,
I'm wearing a shirt from Temu. Have you ever heard of Temu?
I've not heard of Temu. What's that?
It is a company from China,
Okay.
and everything is like $1 or
Oh,
$3.
Oh, I have heard of this. Yes. Is the Temu shirt comfortable? No.
It is not breathing. This shirt costs like $2.
Well, you get what you pay for sometimes, you know.
And now
as they say.
China has probably access to every single
They know what
thing in my house.
Yep, they own it now. They own you. Okay, we're gonna talk about the number 5 song of all time really quick. "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Now, this is a song. I was the age you were listening to this when this came out.
Right.
And this was this for me. Where like for me, I heard my dad play this, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is for me. Like I knew that Nirvana was my thing. That's for, you know, as a 13-year-old, like this is the kind of music I need to hear at this moment.
Right.
How do you feel about it? And you don't, you know, be honest.
No,
Whatever you
I'm
think.
going to be honest. I never got into Nirvana. Never, ever.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is I appreciate all music from classic. You know, I'm not one of those that says I hate country western or
Right.
Right. All music is good because everyone has a reaction to different types, so it's all good. I never got into Nirvana. I love Dave Grohl. I think Dave Grohl is like
Love Dave Grohl as well.
awesome.
Yep.
I was never a fan of Nirvana though, or
Foo Fighters.
no. I like the Foo Fighters.
Okay,
enough.
but not Nirvana.
Not Nirvana.
To me, Nirvana is like this. Especially is what changed. This changed music.
Yeah.
Like when this song in particular came out, which they didn't intend for this song to be the single or the one.
Right.
They thought it was going to be the song "Come As You Are," would be their bigger song, which I also
Right.
love that song. But yeah, "Smells Like Teen Spirit." This is the only song that Nirvana wrote that they're all three credited on as writing, which is
Right.
interesting. And I also didn't realize that what Teen Spirit was.
What is it?
Okay, so
Learn me, Sean.
I'm so happy I can teach you something because I didn't know this either. So I couldn't teach you anything with the Beatles, but Nirvana, I got you.
Wasn't Teen Spirit a deodorant?
Yes. And so what?
See, I knew that.
Fuck. What happened was there was Kurt Cobain was hanging out with a friend of his who was the lead singer of I think a band called the Girls with a lot of R's, Girls, and she wrote on a wall or something, Kurt smells like Teen Spirit. He did not know it was a deodorant. He thought it was just a cool like anarchist thing to say. Like that's just a cool thing. So he took what she wrote and just put smells like Teen Spirit. After the song came out, then learned it was a deodorant brand. And it's like, oh, I thought you were trying to say something like poetic. I didn't realize you were talking about I smell like deodorant.
Yeah.
From a grocery store.
Well, I did know that it was a deodorant.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Apparently, I guess is it still deodorant? I don't think so. I don't. It should be.
It should be now.
Have the fucking logo on it or something. Have the naked baby.
Have that baby.
Have that naked baby. I don't know. Yeah. So this song changed music. It made the whole grunge thing, and I was so into grunge. I was and that's the thing is like for me it was like my dad liked Metallica, and Queensryche and Scorpions and Pink Floyd, and when he played Nirvana, I was like, oh, this is like my generation's, even though it's the generation above me, but it's a Gen X generation, but that's not me. But
well, yeah,
I'm close, but I'm not. But it was like, then it was this, then it was Alice in Chains, all this stuff. It was like, oh, grunge is like my genre. Like I really took into that. So I personally have no problem with Smells Like Teen Spirit being on this list at number 5. That makes sense to me. But Dick, I think this is higher than any Beatles song, which I do think is a little crazy. Let me just double check real quick. Yeah, it is higher. The highest Beatles song, let's see. It's number 15.
Ooh, that hurt. Yeah,
and
that hurt.
Now,
did you come here to insult me, Sean?
I didn't. Oh, no, I take it back. It's number 7. There's another one at number 7. We have 15 and 7. Okay, so 2 spots off. Do you want to guess, according to Rolling Stone, what the highest Beatles song is?
Single.
It's a single, one song that they think is the greatest, I guess, Beatles song. I will tell you that I disagree with this, but that's the only hint I'm going to give you.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
It's hard because it could be Come Together.
Could be.
It could be I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't know.
Well, I will say I Want to Hold Your Hand is the number 15 song.
Okay.
That is the 15. Strawberry Fields Forever.
Okay.
Now, would you say that's the best Beatles song? Because I don't think I would say that.
See, that's Rolling Stone.
I know. It's Rolling Stone. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's.
But that was another, that was supposed to, Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane was supposed to be on Sgt. Pepper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Those are the first 2 songs recorded for Sgt. Pepper.
Oh.
And they released them as singles. And I don't know if you know the story of we're talking about Nirvana. But anyway, I don't know. It's all, like I said, it's all opinion.
And that's why this is fun to me, because it's I'm not mad.
And that's what they like is the controversy.
Right.
And people,
Strawberry Fields.
And people talk.
And not to say it's a bad song, but it's not the best song. Back to Nirvana.
Yes.
So the band recorded this track in 3 takes. They used the second take. And then Cobain recorded only 3 vocal takes because the guy producing it said he could never get Kurt to do more than 3. He's like, 4 was impossible. So they recorded it basically in 3 tries, which is pretty good. Mm-hmm. I do think the song, the way it progresses and it just speaks to me. The music video rules. And that changed MTV. That music video was like the first time that like bands were trying to look cool. I mean, they were looking cool, but they were trying to look like pretty. Right. You can't even see Dave Grohl's face. It's covered in hair. And he's just playing drums and like it's like a dingy, there's like super bright light on Kurt. Like it's just like they're not showing off their faces really. Right. They're just and not dress. They're dressed like thrift store clothes, and they don't give a shit.
Right.
And that is what changed culture.
Well, and the thing is like and like I said, I never got into grunge.
Yeah.
But what happens? I mean, this is all just my opinion.
Totally.
Who am I? But any new genre of music improves the next genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And or it expands music.
Right.
Even like disco.
Right.
Now a lot of people didn't like disco. A lot of people like disco, and this is in my time, not yours. But
sure.
But what disco did was expand music because then, even though it's not a disco song, it used parts of that technique or sound or whatever into other types of music.
Right.
And so that's what grunge did too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, though I never got into grunge at all, Neil Young did.
Mm.
And he loved Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
He did Sleeps with Angels, and that was about Kurt
Oh,
Cobain.
okay.
But his music changed because of grunge.
Right.
Though a lot of people will say he's kind of like the grandfather of
Sure.
grunge. But so even though I didn't care for it, I appreciated it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Smells
Like
Like Teen Spirit
Yeah.
was probably my favorite song by them,
Mm-hmm.
though I haven't heard a lot.
Yeah.
But, I told Rocco that I'm actually more familiar with the Weird Al version
Yeah.
than
Which probably was played
than
more in her
Rocco.
house more than and then the other one. That's
Yeah.
fine.
But I appreciated Nirvana, and they did change music.
Yeah.
You have to appreciate that.
Yeah.
It
is I don't know, a cool thing. You're talking about music inspiring other music. Like Rocco and I like this band Queens of the Stone Age.
Right.
But a lot of it is derived from polka. And you would never think like this rock band would do that, but they're taking the same beat patterns at polka, and same with disco, and same with grunge.
See, and I'm all about polka.
You love polka. Polka.
You can never go wrong with polka.
Can't go wrong.
But you're right, and that's what I'm saying is every time a new genre or a different style of music comes out, it complements more music.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing is I just love music.
Now, let me ask you a serious question. I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about this.
Oh, no.
Do you think Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain?
I don't think so. And I've been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I think she's crazy. I do think she's
she's batshit crazy.
She's unwell. But I think that I watched this documentary called Montage of Heck.
Yeah.
And it shows both of them, and it's just like home videos that they found of them, and it's sad. Like you just see him he's holding his daughter Frances Bean while she's giving him Courtney Love is giving the daughter a haircut. Kurt Cobain is holding the baby, but he's so strung out on heroin that he can't it's just a lot of sad things like this. And then things they show things in his journal and his diary, whatever, and it's just dark. And I feel I don't think I think he did it. It just seems to me watching that you kind of see the actual him.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that. So.
And it is
because I do subscribe to that theory.
Well, is Paul dead, and did Courtney kill Kurt? Those are the conspiracies.
The odds are better that Courtney killed Kurt
than Paul being dead. But you're probably right on that.
Throwing that.
You're probably right. Okay, let's see what Rolling Stone magazine said about Abbey Road. Now, Dick, I always tell this to the guest, and the audience knows there's always going to be a word in here that I've never heard before. that I'm gonna have to stumble through. So forgive me when I read this.
Yeah, I hate big words too. Sean.
It's not. It's just like weird words. Like what is this? I don't know. So we'll find out what it is this time.
Okay.
It was a very happy record, said producer George Martin, describing this album in the Beatles anthology. I guess it was happy because everybody thought it was going to be the last, so they knew. They knew it was going to be the last.
Sure.
Indeed, Abbey Road, recorded in 2 months during the summer of 1969, almost never got made at all. That January, the Beatles were on the verge of breaking up, exhausted and angry with one another after the disastrous session for the aborted Get Back LP, later salvaged as Let It Be. Yet determined to go out with the same glory which they had first entered the world and start off the decade, the group reconvened at EMI's Abbey Road Studios to make their polished album, a collection of superb songs cut with an intention to refine detail. Then, here we go. Segued?
Segued.
That's segued?
That's segued.
Shut your face.
That's
segued is spelled that way?
Yeah, segued is spelled that way. That's a $5 word, Sean.
Segued?
I
guess I never would have considered that. I've never spelled segue before in my life, as you've learned.
segued.
Let's make it a harder word in here. Together, especially on side 2, the stunning conceptual force, there is no thematic link other than the Beatles' unique genius. John Lennon veered from the stormy metal of I Want You, She's So Heavy, to the exquisite vocal sunrise of Because, Paul McCartney was, or Paul McCartney's saucy Oh Darlin', or the silly Maxwell Silva Hammer. And deliciously, oh my God, there's more. Bitter, You Never Give Me Your Money, George Harrison proved his long secret worth of his composer with Something Later, covered by Frank Sinatra. I didn't realize Frank Sinatra covered that song.
Yeah, that's the one he said was.
I mean, I knew that. I didn't know he covered it, though.
Oh, yeah. He goes, You stick around, Jack, it will show.
Oh.
That's real famous. And when he goes, you stick around and it will show. Frank Sinatra said, you stick around, Jack. And when George Harrison toured, that's how he sang
said
it.
Jack.
Yeah.
Well, if Frank Sinatra is going to cover you, you got to go back. You should what he says. The folk pop diamond Here Comes the Sun, written with his friend Eric Clapton's garden after a grim round of business meetings. Lennon and McCartney and Harrison reputedly sang more 3-part harmonies here than any other Beatles album. Early in the recording process, Paul McCartney said he had told producer George Martin, let's do it the way we used to. They did, and that warm feeling, a sense of increasingly divided band warmly came together as friends. Maybe one reason Abbey Road has become the most beloved Beatles album of all time. So Segued was the one thing that tripped me up. That's a little embarrassing. We'll move on. We're going to move on.
You know, one thing I want to say. That,
yes.
You've heard of James Taylor.
I have heard of James Taylor.
Yes. He was on Apple Records.
I did not know he was on Apple Records.
Yes.
Okay.
His first album.
Oh,
was
wow.
on
That's
Apple
something.
Records.
Oh, yeah.
Song on the album. Something in the Way She Moves.
Oh, yes. I did know that he got that line from the song.
Okay.
Yeah, I never heard that song, though. James Taylor, I'll listen to that song. I promise him. All right, Dick, I'm going to have you choose my next album.
Okay. How long have we been talking? Whoa.
I don't know.
An hour and a half?
I knew it was going to be a longer one, but I'm impressed with us. We did good.
Yeah.
Okay, so pick one out.
Okay.
Let me know which album I'm going to do next.
Watch it be Sgt. Pepper.
That would be amazing. That would be pretty incredible.
Oops, I got two.
Okay, put one back.
Okay. 323.
323. Now, I've done a lot of the 300s. Let's see where we get here. Not Coldplay. We got The Clash. How do you say that?
Sandinista?
Sandinista by The Clash. I've never heard that. Have you heard that?
No.
Me neither.
I have the greatest hits, so I have.
You know what's funny is I've already done this album, 320 Los Angeles Acts with Garrett.
You know, my friend Scott, that's his favorite band.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I should have had him on.
You should have.
It's too late now, but I didn't.
mean,
X is his favorite band.
Scott has seen them
X.
50 times.
Wow. That I didn't.
He loves John Doe and.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have asked him.
Oh, he would have.
I would have asked him.
Damn.
I didn't realize the lead
missed
singer of this
opportunity.
married not Hugh Jackman. Not Hugh Jackman.
Charo.
No.
Oh.
She married some actor. A guy it's escaping me at this point.
Checky Green.
No, it's not Checky Green. Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Man, they had a kid together. Anyways, and also did this 322 from Elvis
Oh,
with Jenny. So
Yeah.
I'm familiar with this page. We're doing Sandinista by The Clash. Let's find out what is the song, the 322 song, and then Dick, I'll let you go. You've done enough. You've done so much.
I've done enough.
You've talked to so much. You've done so much for me. 323 is God. Okay. Everyone listen to the Everly Brothers. All I Have to Do Is Dream from 1958.
Oh, that's a great song.
Never heard it.
Dream.
Oh, I have heard that. Yes. Okay. I've heard it. That's a good song. Okay, everyone. We'll see you next week. Dick, thank you so much for being on.
Everybody. Oh, my pleasure.
That was so much fun.
Anytime.
Okay.
I'm serious.
We'll have you on again. We'll have you on again.
I can talk for hours about music.
I will allow it to happen. Oh, yeah, thank you. Everyone, we'll see you next week.
Good
and
night.
good night. Thank you. Love you.